Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video we're jumping into Hard Hydra and showing you a full auto Trunda team. This is my take on it. I've never seen anyone do exactly this sort of team, so it's a little bit of fun. And yeah, this team got 1.6 billion damage on hard, on full auto with targeting heads, and it got, just leaving it full auto with no input whatsoever, it's getting about 1.4 to 1.5 billion. So really, really similar, actually, either way. But yeah, this is a Trunda team with a bit of a twist. What is, I think, the fun thing about this team? Well, the fun thing about this team is that we are running not just like Trunda being boosted up by a bunch of supports and Trunda does all the damage. We're actually basically running 6 damage dealers in this team. Every champion is a damage dealer, which is quite fun. It also does mean, by the way, that this team, it works totally fine independent of the Trunda. And I will, of course, suggest some alternatives because, you know, we do have Lazarius in the lead. Obviously, he's very inaccessible, no doubt. Not to mention the other champions, of course, as well. But yeah, there is nothing about this that there's a big Trunda hit right there. There's nothing about this team that necessitates Trunda. Whereas if you take a Trunda out of, you know, a typical Trunda team, it just doesn't work because it's built around Trunda. This team obviously does a ton of damage because Trunda just does more damage than everybody else. Actually, leave me your predictions right now in the comments. Who is gonna do the most damage? Or, well, obviously Trunda will, no spoilers, but how much will she outdamage other people by? And, like, how will other characters do on damage? Let me know. Yeah, again, the point is, we could, if she does get changed in the future, this team will still work. If you swap her out for anybody else, the team will still work. It will just do less damage, obviously, but it will still work just fine. So, yeah, I think there's some fun ideas happening in here in terms of the team. So let's we'll talk about Lazarius the last, because he's obviously the more complicated. Well, he's not that complicated to replace. You just throw in preferably like a protection set support. But like something like a protection set Sifi or something would be nuts. But anyway, let's look at the team and what is going on. So we've got a cursed set Aestrid built for damage. So she is providing us with extra hexes, just making that consistent. She's bringing us increased speed, decreased speed. She brings us increased attack as well, which obviously nearly all the damage dealers here need that increased attack. So she's bringing us tons of stuff. She's also the only real source of healing for the team. So she's also healing us up and keeping us alive, which is quite funny. Next up, we've got Michinaki. He's our decreased defense champion, and he also brings some hexes. He brings decreased attack as well, which will help us stay alive. And yeah, he brings some burns too for some extra damage. I do think it's probably possible to replace him with somebody else. I think you could do that, especially if you swapped out like Lazarius for, let's say you put a Sifi in instead of Lazarius. I think that it would work really well too. Then you could swap, let's say Michinaki. You could throw in like a Bellinor. I think would be perfect. Oh, I forgot to mention, Aestrid obviously brings Weaken as well, which is a huge amount of extra damage. But Bellinor bring decreased defense, Weaken as a void, and good damage. Even specifically, you could build your crit rate lower. That could be pretty cool, and he'd do some decent damage as well. So that'd be a fun replacement for Michinaki as an idea. Or, you know, an Ugo would work fine as well. If you're, you know, if you want some extra healing, some support, and still have a decreased defense. Stagnite would be great, or Duck the Pierced. If, you know, you just want decreased defense, decreased attack, they won't do as much damage, but it might be a little bit safer, that sort of thing. Trunda, she does ridiculous damage. We're just leaving her on full auto. Michinaki, by the way, I think is in lethal. Trunda is in, I believe she's in 6-piece Merciless, 2-piece Cruel, which is very strong. I think the ideal is 6-piece Merciless, 2-piece Zeal. I just don't have good Zeal pieces yet, but that's what she is in. We've got a Wukong, Sun Wukong. He is in, and this is the nice thing about this as well. We have not had to do any funky builds. Let me also state that these are your bog standard builds that you'd want to be building these champions in anyway. We've not had to break anyone to make them fit in. We've not had to do anything strange. Everyone's in the builds that you'd want them to be in. So Wukong, he's in a Merciless build for Arena. So he's got good accuracy for Arena. But he's also built for damage. He's coming in, he's doing damage, and he's bringing us block buffs for this team. We've got increased attack, so he's doing pretty good damage. And then we've got an Inquisitor Shamael, who again, I think is in damage build. He might be in reflex or just random gear sets. We'll check it out. But he's in just for damage and some decent speed. Everyone's in decent speed. like 250-ish. So he's in a pretty standard Hydra build. That would also be useful anywhere you wanted to use him as well, because he's good speed, good damage. It's straightforward enough. So yeah, there you are. Now, Lazarius, this is the fun one. So I did a showcase of Lazarius like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, maybe, where we were running him in Hydra. And in that showcase, we were running him just as a support. And I do think that's very strong, especially, but this would make your build awkward. Running him, I think, especially in 9-piece protection, in just Form 1, I think it's incredibly powerful, where he would basically be giving everyone on the team a nice damage boost. Now, in Form 1, he is overlapping because he brings us increased attack, which we already have from Aestrid. But if you didn't have an Aestrid, he'd be bringing the increased attack for your team, which is great. He brings us a Strengthen, which helps us to stay alive. He brings us block debuffs, which again helps the team be more consistent. Then he can also, as you can see, swap over to Form 2, which is damage form, and slap in some like 1 million damage per head AoE nukes against decapitated heads. He hits pretty darn hard. You know, he can hit really, really hard, actually. So he's pretty solid. He does about roughly 500k per hit on his A3 against a decapitated head as well, so about 1 million total. He's not the biggest damage dealer, but he's not bad, right? He's not bad at all. His A1 doesn't do too much. We'll see his A1 here. Oh, no, never mind. He went back into Destruction Surge. He got some cooldown reduction. Cool. But he is in Lethal and 4-piece Stone Skin. So he is in my Arena build. So he's just built for damage, for Arena with Stone Skin. And yeah, it's the Arena Lazarius build, your pretty standard one. So we're being able to use him in his standard Arena build and bring him into this team and have him flip forms. And yeah, it works really solid. So he's contributing nice damage, but he's also keeping the team alive. He also, by the way, strips buffs and can put block buffs on his A2 in Form 1, which is really nice. And oh, the other important thing about Form 1, his support form, of course, is that he has a 3-turn cooldown passive revive. So if anybody does die, which can happen because we're playing on auto, he will revive them back up and just keep the run going and keep it safe. So it's pretty nifty. Now, this team is definitely playing loose and fast, shall we say. You know, we're running basically 6 damage dealers. One of them is half a support. With Lazarius, it is tight, right? So with worse gear, you might find that this team flops a bit. It might. I tried putting Trunda in the lead instead of Lazarius, so that she would be boosted by Shamail when the Fear Head is there, and she would be giving bonus attack with her aura to everybody. What happened when I put Trunda in the lead? The team wiped, right? Why did the team wipe? Because Lazarius is taking less turns, and he's therefore giving you less support. So I found that was a big problem. I think you could absolutely make it work, and maybe it would even be more powerful if you did that and you swap Lazarius for it. Like I said, I mean, like a 9-piece protection Sifi is like the best thing I can think of. Maybe even just like a Mithrala. Again, preferably a 9-piece protection. Just, you know, someone that's giving you a bit of extra support to keep you alive. The nice thing about Lazarius and Wukong is that they can both strip buffs. They both place block buffs as well. So on this full auto run, it makes it really consistent at keeping Poison Cloud off and keeping buffs off of the Head of Wrath. It makes that stuff very, very consistent. And yeah, it just works really well, genuinely. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised by this team that it works so well. Probably the only main downside with this, well, there's 2 main downsides. I say main downside just in terms of the synergies within the team, I would say, is that there's no increased defense from Michinaki. So that's a bummer. Right, he's losing out on some damage. Duchess, by the way, that's another good replacement for Lazarius. Maybe you could even do it with just an Arbiter, maybe. She'd give you, again, the revive and healing, even a little bit of buff stripping. She could probably work as well. Anything like that. Yeah, what's her name? The Orc, Raka Viletide. She could work. Probably lots of champs could work. But yeah, anyway. So that's slight downside number 1. Michinaki's not going to do as much damage as he could because he doesn't have increased defense, so he's not going to hit crazy, crazy hard. Downside number 2, I suppose, is that compared to the best Trunda teams, right? It's not going to be as strong. So like the sort of Trunda hyper carry team where you've got, let's say, an Emic Trunk Heart and that, you can build full auto teams. There's lots of people have done. I think Boozor did a video on it recently, for instance. Like those Trunda teams can do more. Right? They just will. Like you could probably do 2 or 3 million with that sort of team. And then, of course, if you get like the best Trunda team possible with the double Yumiko, it becomes much stronger. The advantage of this is that it works full auto. It doesn't require any weird builds. It doesn't require even super specific champions. It's just the idea of let's throw in a whole ton of damage dealers with covering the core buffs and debuffs for Hydra. We're just basically building a proper Hydra team with as much damage in it as possible. And one of those damage dealers just happens to be a Trunda. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. So like this was the run. I mean, if we skip on ahead, you can see we're slamming the damage out. So we hit like 1 billion damage at about turn 165. By the way, when did we hit 1 key? We hit a 1 key for hard. Oh, very, very quickly. Oh, Trunda just smashed it in 1 hit, I guess. How quick? So I did a few tests. It usually was doing it in about a minute. We're a little bit slow on this one, sadly. Oh yeah, this is terrible time. Yeah, so it's taking us. Yeah, it takes 1 minute 10 seconds for this one to hit a 1 key, and then Trunda, Trunda does Trunda stuff. He does Trunda things and smashes things. We jump on ahead. There we go. So the ultimate damage for this run was. Oh, and then I was doing more testing after that. I did a bunch of testing with different stuff. I went then and I tested after this one. I was testing Trunda in the lead, and I found it just did not work as well. Yeah, there we go. We got 1.63 billion on hard. It took an hour. Again, just running it full auto. Remember, this was click targeting. But yeah, here we go. I've got my screenshot. So this was the click targeting one. 1.63 billion. And by the way, if you were guessing on the damage, this is how it broke down. So Inquisitor Shamael, now he's only my second Shamael. He's not my best one. It's only my second Michinaki as well. They're not even in the best possible builds and gear, right? But Shamael, he was the lowest at 135 million. Next up was Lazarius at 140. Again, he's doing like a decent chunk of damage, especially considering that he's spending half of his time as a support, which is cool. Next was Sun Wukong with 142 million. Then Aestrid 166. A lot of that is Hex, right? But she's also doing decent damage herself. Then Michinaki with 343 million. A big chunk of that is Hex, obviously. He's the most consistent Hex source. And then Trunda with 702 million. Now, obviously, then if we take Trunda out, if we replaced her with, let's say, another 140 million support, you'd obviously put in a stronger damage dealer, right? Than these. You could easily put in, I don't know, like a Turvold or something. And you'd probably do like 250, probably 300 even. I don't know, something like that. But if we took her out, let's say worst case, let's replace her with another Sun Wukong, right? So we'd lose, let's say 500 million. I don't know, at least 500 million. I think you could still do over 1 billion damage with this team, even without a Trunda. And obviously, if we had a 4-star Trunda, her damage would go up a ton. If we had a 6-star Trunda, her damage would go up another ton. It would be pretty big. It would explode. Some blessings on Lazarius would help, etc. But yeah, that's the team. And now, again, the important thing I was saying here, this was the run then. I did the run on full auto. No click targeting, nothing. We just left it completely full auto. 1.49 billion. Tiny bit short of the 1.5. And then I did it again. We got 1.45. It went down a bit. Each of these runs, they're all taking almost exactly. I mean, what's amazing, they're all hitting turn limit. They're all taking pretty much exactly 1 minute and 1 hour. 1 hour, 1 minute. Almost exactly. Like there's a tiny variance, a 1 minute variance between them. And there is a small damage variance. I mean, it's actually a fairly large damage variance, really, in the terms of more normally teams. But yeah, there's a fairly small damage variance. Obviously, this was there was also multiple tests I ran and gearing and stuff that were not shown here. But yeah, look, that's sort of the concept of the team. So I think it's a very nice full auto team that requires really nothing special. It requires really nothing special. Now, in terms of my Great Hall, I've been working on this a bit. So I have now got the 10 out of 10 ignore defense for Great Hall. So that's a big damage boost. Honestly, for Trunda, this crit damage is absolutely massive because, as you guys probably know, with Trunda, she double benefits from crit damage on her A2. So, like, it's twice as good as it is for a normal champion for Trunda. Arguably more so. It's an absolutely absurd damage boost. So that would be a huge boost for the Trunda. We could obviously get a chunk more attack as well. So there's still quite a lot of room to grow the damage here. But yeah, that's sort of where we're at, just so you know what the area bonus is. Let's look at the build. So Lazarius, first of all, like I said, he's in 4-piece Stone Skin and 4-piece Lethal, and he is coming in with about 260 speed. He's basically stats like this. In Form 2, he flips over and he's like this. His attack's a bit low. I love, even that 2-star Blessing would be a big chunk of extra attack. That'd be really nice. But yeah, that is him. Again, the nice thing about hard difficulty for Lazarius is, again, he's also bringing us a great speed aura. He's got Lightning Cage for Arena, which is okay for Hydra, but, you know, it's fine. Yeah, I think the nice thing is running him on hard. You could just run him in this Arena build, right? Just run him in your Arena build, and he works just fine for Hydra. You could build him as a Hydra-specific champion, but you know, he's Lazarius. You probably want to build him just for Arena, and he's just fantastic still, as you can see, on hard difficulty. We had then Aestrid, yes, Aestrid, then Wukong. We probably should have put Trunda second place, but it doesn't really matter. Aestrid is in Curse and Perception, so she is coming in to almost 300 speed, extra 16% crit rate, because we can, some attacks and crit damage, accuracy. She's got all sorts of stuff. The Curse is really nice for extra hexes. In this team, you don't need the Cursed, because we got Michinaki, but it's nice. It makes it more consistent, and it does add up to extra damage. Like, you know, if he has his... You're killing heads so quickly, it's just trying to keep the Cursed set up as much as possible. It adds up to an extra chunk, for sure. Now, she's in Cruelty, 5-star from the Path, whatever, and she's got War Master. War Master procs Cruelty if it applies, so it's actually very strong. Next up then, who's next on the list? We've got Sun Wukong. The Sun Wukong. So he is here. Again, he is in 6-piece Merciless Arena build. So he's coming in our Arena build, so 251 speed, high attack crit damage, and he's got like 400 accuracy. So Arena build, he's in Polymorph and Helm Smasher. So yep, standard Arena Wukong. You know, he's doing a decent job here. He's doing a decent job. Then we had, sorry, who do we have? Trunda. Let's do Trunda last. We'll come back to the Trunda. Let's do Michinaki first. So it's Michinaki number 2 for me, who's down here. Michinaki number 2. His gear's not terrible. He's just no blessing. He's got lethal perception. So he's coming in 5k defense, 257 speed, 250 crit damage, 240 accuracy. His accuracy's low because we're using him on Hard Hydra. He has War Master. I don't know. I'm not sure. Helm Smasher maybe could be better, seeing as we've got our area bonuses maxed out now. I don't know. I think the difference is fairly small. Obviously, I think if you got better gear, Helm Smasher pulls ahead because he starts hitting really hard. I think War Master is definitely the way to go here when we don't have increased defense, though. But yeah, I think with Michinaki, I think that the flip between War Master and Helm Smasher comes with just the level of gear and the level of damage, because the Helm Smasher is multiplicative, whereas the War Master is just sort of a flat damage. So the worse your gear is, the better War Master is. Who else did we have? We had Inquisitor Shamael number 2. So Shamael number 2 is this one. So he's 4-star. He is in Reflex. Reflex 2-piece Slayer. He's coming in with 5k attack, 240 speed, 270 crit damage. Nothing too crazy. Giant Slayer, Cruelty. You could have a much, much better Shamael. Like, I think Eherbad Shamael really puts us to shame. And then we've got our Trunda, the best girl, 6-piece Merciless, 1-piece Slayer. She actually stole Slayer gloves. I had to re-gear her. I was obviously working with her in like a team where she had 70% crit rate. We were running her with like a Lanicus. But yeah, so we can see with the Trunda, she's 205 speed, 7k attack. It's a good build. It's not crazy. I've seen much, much better. 3 to 1% crit damage. One nice thing, I need to re-roll this damn piece here. We've got a Merciless crit damage necklace. So that could give us an extra 12% crit damage. Then the Hydra bonuses could add up to a lot. We could get attack here. It's not a good banner, but it's Merciless, which is important. We've got a good ring. A good Merciless headpiece would make a big difference as well. We've got a good Perception helmet. We've got a 6-star weapon. So we've got lots of room to grow this stuff. But again, with Trunda, even like crit damage would be better here, I suppose. We'd have to come up with a 5% more crit rate then. With Trunda, you want as much crit damage as possible. Like, she double dips, so crit damage is king. Like, if we put her into Hydra battle stats, yeah, it's like 339. This could be a lot higher. Like, we could have an extra 12% plus 12. You have 24% more. So she'd be like that. If we had her 4-star, she'd get what? Like, man, we could, with some upgrades, we could get her over 400%. Like, we could massively boost her damage just the 4-star blessing, getting the necklace fix, getting the area bonuses up. Like, she go ham, honestly. And she's built like this, so very standard stuff. This is pretty important. Stoke to Fury for your typical Trunda teams. Not so important here. I actually found on hard, she actually resists a lot of stuff just because she's got 80 base resistance. She's constantly resisting stuff. But yeah, that's the Trunda build. And yeah, she's in Heaven Cast, which is, I think, the best for her. Obviously, until you get 6-star and then Crushing Rend is totally broken. But Heaven Cast is very strong. We've got quite a decent chunk of buffs on the team. Just simply between the Lazarius and Aestrid, it's actually an okay number of buffs. It's not crazy. But, you know, you're having 3 buffs pretty consistently. 2 to 3. There we've actually got a bit more than that. Yeah, 4 buffs fairly consistently. So it's not so bad. Not so bad. So there you go. That's the team. Like I said, it's a fun little team. Like, it's not going to compete with your... I mean, like, I don't know if McLovin actually did a full key here, but, you know, a double Nia key is a lot more effort. That's what I'll say. Here you can see, like, a proper Trunda team. 17 billion. Like that team is doing over 10 times as much damage, right? It's doing way more, just funneling stuff in. And this is even with only 1 Yumiko, 1 Nia. So like it can go even higher than that with double Yumiko. It goes much further. Like, okay, here we go. Here's like a double Yumiko. Here's a again, we got Lanicus instead of a Shuzan, but still this one is 20 billion on Brutal. So yeah, I'm sure we've got some probably crazy teams in here. Let me see. Yeah, so here's 65 billion with the double Yumiko. On Brutal. On Nightmare, you could do like 90 billion with like the best team. So, you know, this is obviously +4, Crushing Rend, better gear, blah, blah, blah. Because it's Trunda. Apologies again, as always, to the comment section that thinks that Trunda, there's nothing weird about Trunda. Oh, God. But yeah, so you can really scale this up. But like, this is where we're at. I think I'm pretty happy with that. For, you know, full auto, 1.5 million on hard is pretty solid, actually. Again, that's sort of, I think having like that's 3 billion on normal, which is tough. And like, it's quite tricky to build these teams. It is. There's work and you need to manual. I think, man, for slapping it in full auto at low effort, really, on just your standard type of builds, I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. That's my auto Trunda key. Trunda with 6 damage dealers. There we go. Where's our end screen? I have the screenshot here. There's the end screen. Let's put it to the best end screen. Hang on. There we go. The best end screen. 1.63 billion. That was it. Clicking. Cool. Trunda. We could probably push 2 billion if we upped our gear a bit. We'll see. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.